Fine. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Everything is okay?
Yeah, everything is okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to know. Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Fine, thank you.
Good morning. Welcome. This is Amanli.
Oh,
Good to see you.
It is also my honor to express our heartfelt gratitude to whatever the Chinese government is trying to do to express its solidarity with the people of Tigray and its support for the deepening of the peace process that has been signed in Pretoria and whose implementation is going to be critical not only to the peace and stability in this particular area but also to the region at large. And we know that China has been very instrumental in a whole range of development efforts in Ethiopia and also in Tigray, and it's our hope and expectation that your visit here will help kickstart and resume the kind of developmental role that China has had in this part of the country. And we have a number of areas to scour with regard to kickstarting this development partnership. But we also hope and expect the government of China to participate in humanitarian endeavors in this region as well. And as you know, Tigray will have to be rebuilt from ground up. Tigray has been destroyed, and the level of destruction that has been wrought on Tigray is quite staggering. So we need all kinds of support in rebuilding Tigray, and which is our hope and expectation that China will have a very critical role to play in this regard. So I once again would like to take this opportunity to welcome His Excellency and his delegation for gracing us with their presence, and look forward to discussing a number of areas of mutual concern to both China, Ethiopia in general, and Tigray in particular. I thank you.
尊敬的州长阁下，
Distinguished His Excellency the President.
非常高兴啊，在齐州啊与州长阁下会面。
Very happy to visit Tigray and meet Your Excellency in Tigray.
这是我首次到访齐州，也是我本人就任以来第一次访问齐州。
Well, this has been the first ever visit by the Chinese side, and also my first visit ever since I became the ambassador to Ethiopia.
此行的主要目的，经济社会发展形势；二是结交朋友，延续和巩固友谊；三是共同探讨中方同齐州下阶段的合作。
The goals of this visit, one is to have a better understanding of the economic and social development situation. Two is to make new friends and consolidate our friendship. And three is to conduct in-depth exchange of views on our future cooperation between the Chinese side and Tigray.
我们都知道这几年呢非常不容易，我们对齐仁镇和联邦政府签署和平协议表示祝贺。
We all know that all these years are no easy for everybody. And so we would like to express our congratulations on the signing of the agreement on the cessation of hostilities between the federal government and the Tigray government.
我们认为呢，这是以最终方式解决最终问题的胜利，为国际社会和平解决相关内部争端提供了埃塞样板，也为地区和平稳定做出了埃塞贡献。中方乐见埃塞开启和平发展新篇章。
We all hold that the signing of the agreement is a victory of African solutions to African problems, and also this has already provided an Ethiopian model for the international community to resolve internal conflicts in an amicable manner. And also this has made the Ethiopian contributions to regional peace and stability the Chinese side is willing to see a new chapter ushered in for peace and the development of Ethiopia.
中国是埃塞高度互信的好朋友，经行和肝胆相照的好兄弟。建交半个多世纪以来啊，我们两国始终相互支持、相互帮助，是发展中国家团结合作、共赢发展的典范。近年来，纵爱全面战略合作伙伴关系高质量发展，双方相互支持，各领域合作成果丰硕。
China and Ethiopia are good friends, good partners, and good brothers, treating each other with sincerity and cooperating with each other with sincerity. Ever since the establishment of diplomatic ties over 5 decades ago, the two sides have always supported and helped each other, showcasing solidarity for win-win cooperation between developing countries. And in recent years, the comprehensive, strategic, and cooperative partnership between China and Ethiopia has been developing very quickly, as epitomized by the mutual support of the two sides for each other on issues of common concern. And also, our cooperation in all fields has been developing with fruitful results.
今年上半年，两国外长实现互访，重大合作项目顺利推进，两国关系发展呈现强劲势头。根据埃塞投资委的统计，到今年的5月，中国在埃塞投资项目1835个，总投资金额48亿美元，创造就业岗位56万个。
Foreign ministers of our two countries have exchanged mutual visits in the first half of this year, and also the mega projects cooperation has been making fresh progress. In this case, I think that our bilateral ties have showcased a strong momentum of growth. In accordance with the statistics made by the Investment Commission of Ethiopia, as of May 2023, China has altogether 1,835 projects in Ethiopia, with a total volume of $4.8 billion and 560,000 new jobs created.
近期，中共相继召开党的20大和全国两会，习近平总书记再次当选总书记、国家主席。习主席相继提出全球发展倡议、全球安全倡议、全球文明倡议，为国际社会提供了中国解决方案，并且我们中共决定坚定不移地走中国式现代化发展道路。
Recently, the Communist Party of China has successfully convened its 20th National Congress, and also recently, the national sessions of the NPC and the CPPCC were also successfully convened, during which President Xi Jinping was re-elected as the party general secretary and also the president of the People's Republic of China. And also, President Xi Jinping has initiated, 3 global initiatives, which is the Global Security Initiative, the Global Development Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative. In all these 3 global initiatives, President Xi Jinping put forward the Chinese way and the solutions to the current problems faced with the international community. And also, we have indicated very clearly that we are pursuing our development in the Chinese way of modernization.
当前，埃塞正值巩固和平、聚焦发展的关键期，中方坚定支持埃塞推进国内和平进程，支持埃塞战后重建和发展振兴。中方愿同埃方继续加强协作，推进落实共建“一带一路”和非洲之角和平发展路向，助力埃塞巩固和平和恢复发展。期待更多合作成果更好汇集。
Currently, Ethiopia is in a critical junction of consolidating peace and focusing on development. But the Chinese side will firmly support the internal peace process of Ethiopia, and we will firmly support the post-war reconstruction and reinvigoration of the nation of Ethiopia. The Chinese side stands ready to cooperate with the Ethiopian side on build the Belt and the Road together and on implementing the outlook on peace and development in the Horn of Africa. In this way, we can help Ethiopia in consolidating peace and achieving development so that we can bring more tangible benefits to the two countries and the two peoples.
当前冀州各项工作正在顺利推进，战后重建任务繁重。中国外交部非洲之角事务特使愿访问冀州，探讨恢复相互建设以及战后重建相关问题。
At present, the national regional state of Tigray is faced with a troublesome and cumbersome task of post-war reconstruction. The special envoy from the Chinese Foreign Ministry on the Horn of Africa will visit the Tigray region and conduct in-depth exchange of views with his counterpart in how to resume our work, on how to resume our projects, and on what we can do for the post-war reconstruction of Tigray.
冀州基础深厚，农业、工业、矿业、旅游业发展潜力巨大。
Yeah, the basis for development in Tigray is very solid. Why I say that is because you have large untapped potentials in agriculture, in industry, in mining industry, and in tourism.
我昨天参观了莫克雷工业园，我觉得呢是一个投资兴业的好地方。希望呢中国企业，这个从这撤离的中国企业呢可以尽快的考虑回来，更多的中国企业可以去看一看。
Yesterday, I paid a visit to the industrial park of Mekelle, and I myself think that it is a very ideal place for investment and for business. So I sincerely hope that all the Chinese enterprises who have fled can come back quickly, and new enterprises will come here for fresh investment.
未来我们将重点关注以下几个方面：一是着力促进中资企业参与基础设施、供水、医疗等民生领域战后重建。此次随行中资企业很多在其中有工程项目，包括供水、铁路、公路、房建以及糖厂等项目，还有企业希望参与水泥等领域合作。中国政府将鼓励更多企业来冀州投资兴业。
In the future, we will focus on the following areas. The first is we will encourage more Chinese enterprises to participate in the building of infrastructure and participate in the projects on water provision and on medical treatment. And most of the Chinese enterprises who have come with me this time, they have projects here in Tigray, well, including water provision, railway, roads, and houses construction and the sugar factories. And also some factories, they have a strong willing to participate in the cooperation in the area of cement.
要复工复产，需要联邦、州和中方这几个层面一起努力，来解决一些困难和问题，才能够继续向前发展。
But to be perfectly honest, for some projects to be reoperated, we need the help, well, from the federal level and from the regional level and also from the Chinese side. Only if we pull our efforts together can we make this a reality.
从而呢进一步解决企业和市场关心的问题。
And in this way, well, we can solve the problems or the concerns of the market and the enterprises.
二是充分用好进博会、中非博览会等平台，推动更多Tigray优质农产品出口中国。
The second area is we should make a full use of platforms such as the Import-Expo and also the China-Africa Expo, so that we can push more high-quality agricultural products from Tigray to be exported to China.
三是通过中国学历、学位项和短期培训，促进中国与提州之间的人文交流。我们欢迎呢更多的提州的朋友到中国去访问、去看一看、去学习，去做一些相互交流的方面的工作。
The third area is, well, in the field of cooperation, well, between scholarship and the programs provision and short-term training, so that we can promote people-to-people exchanges between the Chinese side and Tigray. So here, I would like to say that I welcome more and more people from Tigray while visiting China, well, because seeing is believing, and in this way, I think we can have a better understanding of each other, and we can conduct more communications and exchanges.
40建议呢，州政府为中资企业提供更多的帮助和支持，也帮助中资企业树立在提州长期发展的信心和决心，并采取呢切实有效的措施，进一步保障中方机构和人员的安全和合法权益。
The fourth point is that we would like to propose that the regional government of Tigray will provide more support for Chinese enterprises so that they are more confident in conducting business here for long-term development. And also, we sincerely hope that you can take some concrete measures to protect the security and the legal rights and interests of Chinese enterprises and the Chinese personnel.
我们此次来访也准备向学校捐赠一批奶粉和粮食包以及书包，以表达我们对提州人民的友好情谊。
During this visit, we are ready to provide and donate some amount of milk powder and food packages and some book packages for local schools as a sign of our friendship towards the people of Tigray.
我们此访呢，得到了提州政府的热情的欢迎和接待。在此呢，我也代表代表团向州长阁下以及提州的各位同事表达对衷心的感谢。
And I would also hereby take this opportunity to express our appreciation to Your Excellency the President and to all your colleagues for the warm hospitality and the reception you have accorded to me and to all the members of my delegation.
The Embassy of the People's Republic of China for not just gracing us with presence, but with coming up with concrete proposals that will help us strengthen our relations. And more importantly, your focus on resuming projects that will be instrumental in bringing in a sense of normalcy to Tigray, and your readiness and willingness to take part in the reconstruction efforts that will be undertaken in Tigray is quite uplifting. And I would like to thank Mr. Ambassador and his delegation for expressing their willingness to cooperate with us to work in areas that are of critical importance to the people and government of Tigray. Yes, it is the first ever such visit by a Chinese ambassador, and I have never witnessed such a large delegation visiting any regional capital, even when I was an official in the federal government. So obviously this shows how important a role and meaning you attach to the reconstruction of Tigray and to Chinese engagement in Tigray. Yes, one of the areas of your visit is about having a better understanding of the reality on the ground, economic, social, political. We just set up interim regional administration, the political base of which was the Pretoria Agreement, and of course it's been almost 10 weeks since the internal regional administration was set up, and we've been trying to get government bureaucracy and services going. We still have a long way to go, because the kind of destruction that that happened in Tigray the last 3 years is not just a collateral damage of a conflict or a war. Most sub-state structures and institutions have been destroyed, especially the involvement of Eritrea, for example, in this conflict meant that the kind of destruction that was wrought was not just destruction of infrastructure, but also the loss of hundreds of thousands of lives, but more importantly, the sub-state structure was absolutely destroyed. So we have to start from ground up. Even state institutions need to be rebuilt from ground up. In terms of, there are some areas which are least affected, but most of the projects have been seriously affected. In some of the projects which the Chinese companies have been involved, obviously have also been seriously affected, but the level of destruction differs from place to place. But those projects in the northern part of the Tigray are very, very seriously affected, and the level of destruction that has been wrought in those areas has been quite comprehensive. So we have a lot of psychological healing to do. We have lost hundreds of thousands of people. The psychological trauma has been very, very significant, and there are lots of areas where we need to work. It's not just the economy that needs to be kick-started, but more importantly, the trauma that our people have suffered needs to be addressed, and addressed in a manner that will ensure that Tigrayans see some peace dividends in the arrangement. I know this is a monumental task, but we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that people of Tigray are back on their feet again. Yes, we would like to thank you for extending a hand of friendship with the people of Tigray. And during the conflict, we have had our own complaints about the Chinese government not doing enough to highlight the suffering of our people. But we understand the Chinese policy. So as long as the Chinese are extending their hand of friendship, we know your involvement is going to do something about the recovery of Tigray, and we are more than willing to cooperate on those areas. Yes, there are economic opportunities, and of course there are so many Chinese enterprises here, and we would like to see them resume their operations again. I know the Giba Dam waits to be resumed again. The railway projects, the Welkite sugar factory, in all those areas which the Chinese have taken part are areas that need to be supported, not only by the Chinese government, but also, as you have rightly pointed out, requires pooling of our resources, both at the federal and regional level, as well as the government of China. And we are more than willing to do our part in making sure that the kind of support Chinese companies need to resume their operations are indeed there. With regard to the cessation of hostilities agreement, like you said, it has largely been successful, especially the cessation of hostilities agreement has been successful, but there are still many areas where we continue to have problems. We have hundreds of thousands of IDPs who needs to be sent back home. Eritrean forces still occupy a significant part of Ethiopian territory, which is within Tigray. That stands in the way of the full implementation of Pretoria Agreement. We have been working with the federal government closely, and it's our hope and expectation that this would be addressed, and addressed soon, in a manner that satisfies the demands and the expectations of our people. In Western Tigray and Southern Tigray, our people are still displaced. We have been working with the federal government and recently working closely with the Amhara regional government to ensure that our people, IDPs, go back to their own territories. And we want to make sure that this happens peacefully, without any conflict whatsoever. But it's very unfortunate that it's taking longer and the rainy season is upon us. People who have been displaced for more than 3 years are still suffering in a very horrible humanitarian crisis, where there is no access to food, where there is no access to shelter and all that. So we would like the government of China to play its part in expediting the implementation of that part of the Pretoria Agreement. Otherwise, we'll be working closely with the federal government. These are some areas where we see will continue to pose difficulties because without our hundreds of thousands of our people being resettled where they belong, and still some low intensity fighting against our people taking place in those areas, it will be very difficult to expect a healthy working environment. But it is our hope and expectation that with the right support and with the right engagement with the federal government, will address this challenge and soon. But this is a very significant stumbling block. But hopefully, the Chinese government will also play its part in this area. I know China's presence in terms of investment in Ethiopia is quite huge, and the good thing about China's investment is it creates more jobs. It creates more jobs, but more importantly, your focus on infrastructure that helps narrow the gap between periphery and the center means whatever development dividends there are could be distributed evenly among the population of the country. In this regard, the railway project, for example, and the water provision project in Guba are very critical as far as Tigray is concerned. And it's once again my hope and expectation that with the right support from us and from the federal government, I know there is willingness on the part of the federal government. I know they are strapped for cash in many ways, but we'll coordinate our efforts and pool our resources so that those projects are back on their feet again. We understand the Chinese way of development, Chinese way of modernization. I think this is something we should all emulate. I know it is very tough to emulate the Chinese. You're a very hardworking bunch, and it's very difficult to mimic the Chinese in many ways. But I hope we'll learn from your experience with people who are trying to learn from Chinese culture and going to school to China. Like you said, visiting short-term visits to China. In many cases, some of our people go to China and say, I realize that it is almost impossible to repeat what China has done, and we have to break that mindset. You send people to China and realize that it's going to be impossible for them to repeat what has been done in China. We'd rather want them to go to China and try to emulate what the Chinese have done and try to repeat it here, replicate it here. And I hope our exchange programs would contribute to that as well. You'll also be part of the consolidation of peace. Consolidation of peace cannot be achieved unless there is dividends to the peace arrangement itself. We have a huge number of combatants who are waiting to be demobilized. But you don't demobilize them unless there is resource. If there is no resource to demobilize them and to resettle them in areas where they will be put to a productive use, they would rather carry their gun, and peace will always face some danger as long as we have tens of thousands of people carrying guns and who could not be demobilized for lack of resources. And I think whatever your plans there, you should also be considering involvement in those areas, because consolidation of peace is also about making sure that the demobilization process is done in a manner that gives people confidence that peace really pays. yes, African solutions to African problems, but support by a principled support by the Chinese and by the rest of the international community will also be instrumental. We are trying to cooperate closely with the federal government. We are trying to address the trust issue between the two of us, but we know it is going to be very difficult. So the role of the international community, a principal role of the international community in bridging that gap is going to be important, although most of the stuff needs to be done by ourselves, but the kind of critical support, the kind of principled support that the international community, including China, would give would also be very important. It is uplifting to learn that you are very much committed to the reconstruction of Ethiopia, and no other region needs reconstruction badly than Tigray and the people of Tigray. So that definitely will be an area. It is also good news that the special envoy is coming to Tigray and will have an opportunity to explore areas of mutual concern. And of course, I know the Chinese are more interested in playing a more positive and a more committed role in the region. You know, special envoys never had this Chinese special envoys in the region. It is a renewed interest in the stability of the region. We understand that Tigray, as a region and as part of Ethiopia, will continue to play a very significant role in the stability in this region. And it's a welcome news that the special envoy is coming. And with regard to projects in Tigray, railway, water, road projects, I know you have also been involved in cement areas. We will make sure Chinese companies are given the right level of protection and support, both in terms of physical security, in terms of securing their property and their activities. And we'll do everything to make sure that the Chinese feel safe to come and invest here, come and carry out their activities here, come and resume their operations here. And that is my responsibility. And I'll take this opportunity to reassure His Excellency the Ambassador and his delegation that Chinese companies are not only welcome, but also will do everything in our power to make sure that their operations are the safest they could be under the circumstances. Tigray is rich in agricultural potential, mining. You know, wherever you go in Tigray, it drips with mining resources, and that needs developing. That needs the right investment from people like the Chinese, of course, will be instrumental here too. We would do everything to make sure that this potential is fully realized and the people of Tigray get to achieve all they have to achieve as a result of such close engagement with the Chinese. As you have rightly pointed out, the industrial park is waiting to be operated, and Chinese companies are welcome, especially fresh investment would create more jobs, but more importantly, more investment means deepening and consolidating peace. People see dividends of peace. And the focus, your future areas of focus are very, very important for us. These are also our areas of focus. More infrastructure is needed, be it railway, water, sugar, cement, and all that. And I think there are also other areas in terms of capacity building, like you have rightly pointed out. We'll send more people to do their PhDs in China. We'll have to send more people to do their master's degrees in China. And of course, short-term trainings will also be instrumental. Whatever exchange we may have to make should lead to further consolidation of our relations and further reinvigoration of our cooperation. We have platforms, like we have pointed out. We'll use every platform that China has to offer, whether this is China import-export, whether these are expositions that China undertakes every now and then. we have to take every opportunity to make sure that Tigray products are duly represented in Chinese exposition and exports. Training and the capacity building are equally critical, and it's my hope and expectation that a continued engagement with the Chinese embassy and mainland China, of course, will be very instrumental in making sure that we benefit as a result of Chinese largesse. And finally, I would like to once again say that we need your support, both in the consolidation of peace, in ensuring that the remaining tasks in the full implementation of the Pretoria Agreement, especially the resettlement of IDPs and the full withdrawal of Eritrean forces, is something the Chinese would play a very critical role in supporting. Like I said, we are working closely with the federal government in this area, but we are also trying to engage as you probably have heard, I paid a visit to Bahar Dar, which is part of our effort to narrow the gap between the political leadership, two sides, so that the Pretoria Agreement that clearly calls for constitutional resolution of whatever conflict there are, whatever claims there are, is fully implemented. And of course, we will do our part to make sure that Chinese companies coming here have the confidence and have the sense of security to carry out their activities freely and to their maximum capacity, of course. So we'll extend whatever support, and we'll work closely with the federal government in facilitating some of the bureaucratic bottlenecks that may stand in the way of Chinese companies resuming their operations here. We'll take concrete measures, security and all that. And I would also like to thank you for the generous gesture you have made in terms of supporting our schools. I hope this will be the first, not the last, as far as China's largesse is concerned. I would also join you in your visit to the school, and it is my hope and expectation that your stay here will have added more vigor to your commitment to help us rebuild Tigray from ground up. I thank you.